Hi everyone, Steve Wiss here, and I'm joined as ever by Kevin Harper for the latest All Sports Betting Pod Football Sunday betting edition here. And how you doing, Kev?
Pretty good, Steve. Thanks. Yeah, yourself?
Yeah, very good, thanks. You had a good win in the FA Cup today, didn't you, at Luton? So you must be in good spirits. Also, I'll tell you what we must mention before we go on to the Sunday bets and picks and everything. 10 of the last 11 selections advised on this podcast have been winners, so we've been in good form, haven't we?
Yeah, we're reading our leagues really, really well at the minute, and long may that continue. I'm sure it will do.
Yeah, in good form. So let's start with the Premier League on Sunday. Tottenham against Crystal Palace. It's an early kick-off, this one. How do you see it going?
I guess everything leans towards a home win, doesn't it? But football's not necessarily like that. I would probably favour Tottenham, but they've got to get over what I call the Phil Taylor effect in this game. Anyone who used to beat Phil Taylor in a major darts tournament, you could bet your mortgage on that person losing in the next round, and 99% of the time they did. And I think that's the concern for Tottenham here. They've obviously just climbed Everest to beat Real Madrid. Real Madrid are awful, by the way, but even so, their name still carries an awful lot of weight. And you only had to see the celebrations when they went 3-0 up in midweek to know the kind of magnitude of that success. So I think they've got an emotional high to get over, to get themselves back up again against Crystal Palace side, who bang average probably doesn't do them justice at the minute, does it? Really, really poor side. But the one thing that they are is an awful lot more organised under Roy Hodgson. And there's a plan, which is something that they didn't have under De Boer. So, and that's something that others around them don't have. So, Palace will be inspired by the occasion, won't they? Obviously, not the first time they've played at Wembley in recent times, but they don't get to play there very often. So I can see Palace up in their game. They've had a fair while to sort of prepare for this. And if you look at the last 3 games since Hodgson came in, really, they've not played badly in any of them. Obviously, that late equaliser against West Ham is likely to have boosted their confidence even more. I don't think they'll get thrashed, Palace, not by a long stretch. I wouldn't be backing Tottenham on any handicaps. I mean, they should win, but as I say, any side that's just achieved something of the magnitude that they did, I'll let them win, I think.
Is it just me, or does the goal line of 3.25 look really high here? Palace are just going to come and park about 10 double-decker buses, aren't they? They're not going to show any ambition in this fixture.
Yeah, you'd think so. But then, if Tottenham do score early, that all goes out the window, doesn't it? So it's probably about right. If Tottenham score early, I can see them running away with it. But, if they don't score early, the longer it goes, they get frustrated. Key players might not be as effective in the second half, that sort of thing.
Yeah, a few question marks here, so best to leave that game alone. Man City against Arsenal. You do have a selection for this one. City, sort of 1 to 2 favourites. Asian handicap, -1, -1.25. Do you see them as deserving favourites to that margin here?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, they've been dominant at home, haven't they? In particular, well, they've been dominant everywhere, haven't they? But particularly at home, Arsenal can have their work cut out to contain them. It's not their strength, is it? Arsenal containing sides at the best of times, let alone when they've just played on Thursday night. Okay, they didn't play an awful lot of their first team, but even so, they'd still have had to have been in and around proceedings. I just think City are a juggernaut that's difficult to stop right now. And while Arsenal went to Chelsea a few weeks ago and managed to sort of not park the bus, but show that they've got a different side to their game, I don't see, even if they employ that in this game, how they can stop the amount of options that Man City have got. I liken this very much to the football team that I watch in the league that I watch it in. There are certain players in that side that you can stop, but as a collective unit, if one doesn't get you, another one will do. There's sort of 5, 6, maybe even 7 players that can kind of get you, and you only got to look into midweek. Napoli tried their best to contain them, and they couldn't do it. And defenders were scoring, midfielders were getting forward. They just attack with too many numbers, don't they, Man City? And maybe Arsenal's best form of defence is to try and get after them at the other end with Ozil, Sanchez, Giroud, Lacazette, whoever they may employ to do the job. The one weakness in this City side, if it is a weakness, is that defence. I mean, if Stoke can go to the Etihad and bag a couple of goals, then Jesus, surely Arsenal could go there and score. So goals for me, I wouldn't be at all surprised if City cover this line on their Todd, but I fully expect Arsenal to contribute something to proceedings.
And you're going to take over 3.5 here at bigger price, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's just a game that screams out goals to me. It really does. I mean, you look at the sort of destruction that City have performed on the likes of Liverpool. I know Liverpool were down to 10 men, but, you know, that was going to be fairly one-sided even so. You know, this Arsenal backline is maybe not as weak, but it's certainly not a great deal stronger than that Liverpool one. And, you know, if teams like Burnley are getting opened up at will, Arsenal are going to, aren't they? So, yeah, I only see goals in this game.
Yeah, over 3.5 goals there, Man City against Arsenal. Following that, we've got Chelsea against Man United. Now, if Man City do beat Arsenal, United will find themselves 8 points behind their City rivals in this race for the title. If that is the case, can they afford to go to Stamford Bridge and play for a draw like they did at Liverpool or not?
Probably not, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it will stop them. How long's Mourinho been a manager for now? Must be going on 15 years. He hasn't changed yet, has he? So I don't envisage anything changing here. Maybe the war of words that is starting to intensify between Mourinho and Conte might drag a little bit of attack out of him. But the problem that Mourinho's got, in my eyes, is he's missing his best player in Paul Pogba. So what can he do? Obviously, his loss is going to be even more highlighted by the fact that one of Chelsea's key midfielders, Kante, is going to need some sort of looking after. Yes, on the bright side, he's got Matic, and that will help. But I don't know. I don't think he's going to go there and be particularly attacking. I'm not altogether sure Conte is going to be much more offensive-minded. I could see this one being one of those Liverpool Man United stalemates. I hope it's not. I hope it's as good a game as it was last year, albeit one-sided. I don't think it'll be as one-sided as last year when Chelsea won 4-0. But I don't think it's going to be a particularly great game either, if I'm honest. You know, the game's all about Jose Mourinho, isn't it? And if he doesn't want to attack, you know, it's not going to make great viewing. If he's forced to attack, then it will do. So hopefully Chelsea can do something to bring them out of their shell.
Is there anything from a betting perspective that tempts you here or not?
No, nothing at all. I mean, if Pogba was fit, then I would take United in some kind of handicap form. But, you know, you look at it, even Fellaini's not there either. Lukaku doesn't do it in the big games. I just don't really want to be on United when there's a chance that they won't score a goal.
It's a tricky sort of fixture. So just one selection for you in the Premier League for Sunday. Man City against Arsenal, over 3.5 goals. Sadly, we haven't really got time to talk about Everton Watford in the late fixture there, but you don't have a selection for it either. But very best of luck with the over in the City game.
Yeah, it wouldn't take long for me to talk about anyway, to be fair. Given one of the sides that's involved in that game, yeah, just the one bet for me in the Premier League, Steve. We had a decent day on Saturday. No need to chuck a load of money at things that I don't particularly fancy, especially when we're coming up to a two-week break in the division. So we'll take that one pick, and then we'll head across the channel to France. There's 4 matches in total over the course of the day. You're getting involved quite nicely in them. We'll start with the first game. Nice against Dijon, or Dijon rather, and both sides at the wrong end of the table at the minute, aren't they? Could both do with a win. Will I ever get it?
I wouldn't be surprised if there's an away win here, actually, at quite a decent price, Kev. Nice, the 4th bottom. I mean, if you look at their squad on paper, they probably should be in the top 5 or 6. But a few things have gone against them this season. Injuries have badly affected the team. It seems every week someone big is ruled out. It's the same again here. Guys like Seri, the starting goalkeeper, Marlon at the back, a few attackers, they're injured. That's affected them badly. And European football has had a massive effect on Nice this season. And remember, they were involved in 2 rounds of the Champions League playoffs. Came very, very close to qualifying for the group stage, but Napoli did them over 2 legs. And now the Europa League has completely twatted them up. I really think it's one of those instances where that Europa League factor has had an effect on a team. Domestically, they cannot juggle 2 matches a week at the moment. They're doing all right in the Europa League group, to be fair to them. That's the one sort of positive they can take out of things. But it's been affecting their league form. They're not at their best. Dijon have started to find some form recently. 2 wins in a row now for them. And I really think they can get a win on the South Coast here. So I'm going to take them, first of all, on a plus 75 handicap. I think really it should be a plus half handicap. So you're getting good value here. I'm also going to take over 2.5 goals. I think the style of both teams is to attack. Nice will probably be a little bit fatigued after their midweek game. Could be a few holes to exploit at the back. And yeah, the odds aren't that great, but I think to combine these 2 bets is a pretty good idea. The only disastrous scoreline by betting these 2 bets would be a Nice 2-0 win. And any other scoreline, and you're not going to lose dramatically. But I think there's a good chance both bets can win. I think something like a 2-1 or 3-1 away win, Kev. It's Dijon definitely are underestimated here.
Yeah, it does sound that way. Obviously, Nice lost the last 4 in the league as well, which is not going to bode particularly well for their confidence. Speaking of teams that lose, Metz are very much one of those. They've got more L plates next to their form than a driving school's reception at the minute. And they take on, second from bottom, Lille, who, well, let's be fair, they're not faring a great deal better, are they? Now, regular listeners to this podcast will be very familiar with the term of 2 shit sides go on the attack and score goals against each other. And that is very much the philosophy that you're going with here.
Yeah. I always have this theory: when 2 poor teams play against each other, goals will happen no matter what league, even if both teams are not scoring very many themselves. So the first bet I'm taking is over 2.25 for that very reason. It should be an open game of football. Both teams have got to look at this and think this is a massive chance of getting 3 points. But I also give the edge to Metz here. This is the first game in charge for their new coach, Frederick Hans, who's a good manager. I always rated him. He's been around the block a bit now, but he's never really failed anywhere apart from a small stint at Sochaux many years ago. I mean, he was wildly adored at Bastia, so much so that I think he got over something like 100 or 200 votes in the Corsican election, even though his name wasn't on the ballot paper. That's how much he was loved over there. And I like Frederick Hans. He's a positive coach. I liked the football he played at Montpellier last season until he fell out with the owner, the late Louis Nicolas, the big lad who's sadly now dead. But yeah, good appointment for Metz, and I think they can get a win here. I'm surprised they're the underdogs for the game, plus a quarter you can get Metz here. And I mean, who the hell would back Lille as a minus 0.25 favourite right now? They've won 1 game, and that was on the opening day of the season. It's just not working. The Bielsa experiment. There's a strong rumours if they lose this game, he'll be sacked, and I think they will lose it. It just has not worked. They're a real mess of a team. Metz should have a lot more confidence and fire in themselves and belief now that Hans has had over a week to get used to the players, and I'm expecting a good performance from the home team. So Metz plus a quarter and over 2.25 goals. I see a home win 2-1, 3-1.
And at the same time as Metz are in action, Bielsa's former club, Marseille, will also be in action against Caen. Marseille games recently have been quite high scoring with the exception of last week, but you don't think this one will be?
No, it's not a good style here clash for Marseille, because they're playing Caen, who are one of the lowest scoring teams in the division in terms of matches. A whopping 10 of their 11 fixtures have ended under 2.5 goals, Kev. They're not a team to watch if you want to be entertained, sadly. So we know what they're going to do here. They're going to make themselves hard to break down, try and counter-attack a little bit. But, I mean, they did that against Monaco a few weeks ago, and they only lost 2-0 there, which was a very respectable result. They've made it very difficult for Monaco to create chances, and I think the same is going to happen here. Marseille are another team. They're coming off the back of a Europa League defeat in Portugal. Yes, they rested rotated players, but it's the same thing, isn't it? As we mentioned with the Arsenal fixture, it's all the fuss over the fixture and planning, travelling, stuff like that. I think it'll be a bit of a flop of a game, this one. There's not going to be much action in it. Marseille will probably maybe find a way to win it 1-0 or something. But I think there'll be a slow pace to it. I've seen it before where the Velodrome crowd's probably going to get a little bit frustrated that they're not sort of easily beating a supposed crap team. So, yeah, I'm surprised the goal line's 2.75. There's too much of a dangling carrot here. I had to have a nibble of this one because calm matches are just not open. It's as simple as that. I don't see this being a high scorer, so under 2.75 is the bet.
Lovely stuff. There is one other match which you're not going to bet on. My knowledge of French geography is not what it should be, but I do understand that St Etienne against Lyon is the Luton versus Watford of the French world. So they don't like each other. Will there be a winner?
Yeah, it's a great match, this. Probably the second biggest rivalry in France behind Marseille PSG. Probably the best local rivalry geographically there is. So, yeah, it's a big game. But I've got to say, it's one of the hardest matches to predict. I actually make St Etienne terrific value on a +half handicap. I think St Etienne should be very, very slight favourites for this game on a draw no bet, Kev, according to my estimation. So Lyon are dramatically overrated here, but they do have a great sort of history in this fixture. Even though they've lost on their last 2 visits to this stadium, they tend to dominate this rivalry quite a lot. So I just don't have the confidence to back St Etienne, even though the value I think is terrific. I don't really like what I'm seeing from St Etienne at the moment. They're not playing great football, and it's a shame because their price is excellent, like I say. This match could go anyway because in derby games, throw the form book out the window, throw logic out the window. The best sort of prediction I can come up with is a draw. But I would love to be able to have the confidence to back St Etienne, but I just don't have it.
Yeah, indeed, that's fair enough. So just 5 picks. I say just 5 picks. 5 picks in France on Sunday. Dijon plus 0.75 and over 2.5 goals in that game. Metz plus a quarter and over 2.25 goals in that game. And then we scrap the goals completely for the Marseille game and go under 2.75 in their clash with Caen. That's French football over and done with until after the international break, Steve. We'll head across to Norway, where we offer our congratulations to Rosenborg, who were crowned champions on Saturday night whilst they were tucked up on their sofas, probably watching Molde get beat. They take on Alsund in the late game. But before we go anywhere near that, there are 2 matches that you're betting in. We'll start off with Brann against Lillestrøm. You like the home side?
Yeah, I do. I mean, Brann lost 4 games in a row not so long ago, but there were reasons for that. They had a lot of players missing. They're the sort of team, when they line up with their best 11, they're a match for anyone in this league, including the likes of Rosenborg, but their squad is very, very thin. So if they get any sort of injuries, suspensions, problems kick in, and that's what happened with Brann. They got a really big win last week away at Ålesund. I think that will really reignite their fire for the last 3 games, and they'll try and push for that 3rd spot if they can. But I think this is a good spot for them because Lillestrøm got a win on Monday night against Ålesund. I think in their minds, they think they're safe now. I mean, obviously, they're not technically safe yet, but there's an element of relaxation probably about them now. They've got a cup final to look forward to in 2 or 3 weeks' time. No one's going to want to get injured for that, are they? So with that sort of looming in the back of their minds, I think they're going to struggle in this game. You can get Brann at even money. And Brann are usually very, very good at home. Certainly any sort of poor results they've had here are because of the squad issues. And their last home match they lost against Rosenborg, I'm not going to hold that against them. They've won 7 times out of 13 this year at home. Last year they were really good here too. Let's say even money just looks a pretty good selection for me for a Brann side that I think is going to be better than what they've been in the last few weeks.
Sounds fair enough. The draw specialists, Sarpsborg, are also in action on Sunday night. If they win their game against Viking, they'll go 2nd in the table, which wouldn't be a bad effort at all, would it? Viking, they've been going nowhere for a while, shipped 10 in their last 2, and you're expecting the floodgates to open again.
There's not a lot else to say here. It's a sheer case of a team that's relegated against a team which that result tonight, Molde defeat, has really left the door open for Sarpsborg. to get the silver medal in this league, and they would deserve that position. I think they've really played well this year. If they could get a second place and win the Norwegian Cup, that would be a really great season for Sarpsborg. But they don't just want to win this game, Kev. They want to get a few goals, get that goal difference well above Molde. At the minute, they're both plus 14. If they could win this 3 or 4-0, suddenly it's really in their own hands, isn't it? They win their last 2 games, they finish second. So I'm expecting Sarpsborg not just to win the game, but I think they're going to turn the screw. They won't just hold on for a 1-0 unless it's sort of, last 10 minutes or something. You can get them on a minus 75 handicap, which maybe isn't great value. To be honest, it's probably poor value in terms of statistical estimations, but forget that. I'm confident they're going to win the game. The motivation's there for them. It should be a simple case of them having too much for a Viking team who are probably going to experiment with players a bit. The heads are going to be down a little bit. And the quality between the two teams is too much anyway. So automatically over 2.75 becomes a pick. Viking aren't just going to go down without some sort of a fight. They're going to give it a go. They're not going to try and bore their fans to death. So they want to try and score a goal or two themselves. And so over 2.75, take Sarpsborg minus 0.75. Fairly obvious picks. I'm just hoping there's no sort of trap here, I'm hoping there's no catch where something weird happens, but it should be a straightforward away win.
Yeah, certainly looks that way. I just mentioned the champions Rosenborg. Their match at Ålesund, probably not a big game for the champions, but it certainly is for the home side. 2 sides directly above those in the table are playing each other at the same time. Earlier in the evening. And there's a chance for Ålesund to come out the bottom 2 if they can beat Rosenborg, or at the very least reel Tromsø back in. So will they knock off the champions, or will it be a victory parade for Rosenborg?
You know what? The dynamics have changed in this game now, because Rosenborg obviously won the title without kicking a ball. They played against Zenit St. Petersburg on Thursday night, Europa League. It was an energy-sapping game. They conceded with the last kick of the match to end their Europa League hopes, realistically. So their heads might be a bit down here. Ålesund, everyone's writing them off now. As far as the pundits are concerned, they're in the Obosligaen next season. They've not won a match since June. They've kept faith with a manager who should have been sacked 5-6 games ago. The last 3 games were against Rosenborg, Sarpsborg, some Strømsgodset. No one's expecting them to pick up another point. So, look, can that work in their favour? Maybe it can. This fixture, they have a good record against Rosenborg. They've drawn against them at home 4 of the last 5 seasons. And historically, Rosenborg have had issues at this ground for some reason. I don't know why. Look, I've got a gut feeling Arsenal might be better than people expect here. It doesn't mean they're going to win the game or even avoid defeat. But I've just got a feeling that extra motivation cannot be underestimated here. If they somehow manage to pick themselves up and enjoy this underdog tag, you never know. Funny things have happened, haven't they, Kev? I wouldn't bet on the game, but it's certainly not a Rosenborg banker, because they don't need any more points now.
No, absolutely. And certainly if that game earlier in the evening is a draw, the Tromsø game, then that will only fuel the fire even more for the home side there, won't it? So, fair assessment there, I think. Just the 3 bets in Norway. Brann win, Sarpsborg minus 0.75, and have a go at over 2.75 in that same game as well. Best of luck with those, Steve. Now let's head across to America. Huge night of MLS action on Sunday night. Really can't be understated how big it is as the conference semi-finals draw to a close. Obviously, it's going to be a 2-week break after these ahead of the conference finals due to the international break. We will start off with, in the Eastern Conference, actually, Toronto FC against New York Red Bulls. Did Toronto win this tie at the Red Bull Arena, Steve? They lead 2-1 going into this second leg.
Yeah, I think they're going to go through. I'd be surprised if they blow this advantage. But, you're absolutely massive night coming up. I'm really looking forward to it in MLS. I think there should be 3, hopefully, pulsating games. I mean, Toronto just need to avoid defeat here, or even a 0-1 loss would be enough to see them go through. But that isn't how they play, is it? They in last year's playoffs, they just went for it in every game, and it worked until the final, which they were unlucky in. And I saw the same tactics last week in Red Bull Arena. They didn't go, unlike some other teams who we've criticised on this podcast for their tactics in these playoffs. Toronto went there and they tried to win the game, and they won the game. So I think it's going to be much of the same here. They're probably a bit more canny than that. They'll probably wait for New York Red Bulls to self-destruct a little bit, because the Red Bulls have got to go for it. Whatever happens, they have to score at least 2 goals here to have any chance of progressing to the next round. It should be an open game of football. It's an obvious pick, I think, but over 3 goals. I don't see how this really should logically end unless Toronto put in one of their great defensive performances and just, keep it tight. But even then, there should be goals. The Red Bulls manager, Jesse Marsch, is not someone who withers away from matches. At some point here, he will absolutely go hell for leather and actually give them a chance of qualifying. So when that happens, either the Red Bulls are going to score a goal or 2 and make things interesting, or they're going to leave themselves exposed at the other end. And Toronto have got enough firepower to take advantage of that with their pacey on the break player. So I see goals. I see at least 3 of them. So over 3 is my pick here. How do you see this one going?
Yeah, it's a fair assessment. I think the thing that you've got in your favour is, with there being this week gap after these games, Toronto don't need to rest anyone. Should they get the first goal and go sort of 3-1 up in the tie, they can just play it out to its natural conclusion, can't they? 2 weeks before the next round of matches, or nearly 2 weeks, and everyone's got plenty of time to rest and recuperate in that time. I think if the game follows what we would call a normal path, then there'll be goals in this game. I just wonder if Toronto do get the first goal, if they'll nullify any threat. But it's beautifully poised, this tie. It really is poised for goals. I just hope that you get them.
Yeah, I think the second match as well looks set for that. New York City against Columbus Crew. New York City -1 Asian favourites here. Goal line 3.25 sort of vicinity. But, I mean, what a catastrophic night it was for Patrick Vieira, losing 4-1 at the Columbus Crew. I mean, I don't think anyone expected that. There are 3 playoff games, 2-0 defeat at Toronto FC, 5-0 defeat at home to Toronto, 4-1 defeat at Columbus. I mean, they just don't do the playoffs, do they, this team? So are they out? I mean, do you give them any hope here?
Nope. No, I don't. That said, although Columbus Crew were really, really good in that first game, they were helped out a little bit by some awful defending from New York City, which isn't going to happen again. And the goalkeeper basically chucked the third one in, didn't he? But New York City had chances at the other end. David Villa just had his one-off night in his MLS career, didn't he? It wasn't like they never saw the goal or anything like that. This game's beautifully set up for goals. There has to be goals. Normally, I'm a bit concerned in a New York City game because Patrick Vieira, whenever I think there's going to be goals in their game, he'll shut up shop and he'll be defensively rigid and all the rest of it. But he can't be that in this game. You know, he's got to go gung-ho from the outset here. Of course, that doesn't mean to say that he's only going to play sort of 2 defenders or anything silly like that. But, you know, there cannot be a defensive mindset. And I don't think Columbus Crew can play with anything other than an attacking mindset. I mean, you look at their 2 fullbacks, spend more time in the opposition half than they do their own. And an awful lot of the other players do likewise. I mean, can the likes of Higuain, Santos, Merrim, can they really be required to do a defensive job? I'm not so sure. And I think their best way is to go and get more goals. You know, that'll guarantee them going through, won't it? If they were to concede the first one and then concede the second one, all of a sudden their backside start twitching and you'd worry for them. But if they go out there and get the first goal or one of the first 2 goals, then the tie's put to bed. So I would imagine that the Crew will certainly, even if they only attack on the counter-attack, I think they'll attack. But New York City have got to. They've just got to attack. They've got to be clinical as well with their attacks. So this one's perfectly poised for a juicy over bet. Yeah,
I've got to say, I actually think this is the best bet of the whole weekend in football in the leagues that I cover. Over 3 goals, you can get at 1.80. I mean, New York City have to score 3 goals to have any chance of progressing in the first place. The Columbus Crew, I've seen it before where Greg Berhalter has tried to defend and it's backfired on him. So I think he doesn't do that strategy anymore. fair enough. That he moved to a strategy of trying to win games rather than hold on for draws, etc. So I can't believe he would be stupid enough to try and get and peg them back. But even if he does that, it'll be wave after wave of attack, won't it, on them, and they're not going to be able to resist New York City. So there's so many different ways goals can be scored here. I think it could be an absolutely manic contest. It could end absolutely fucking anything, Kev. Literally. I think the only way it could be a bit of a damp squib is if Columbus, say, go 2-3-0 up. Then it will be, it's game over, in it. But I think there'll be a lot of goals at both ends. And, I mean, I'm taking the over 3 goal line. Is that the same one you're interested in here, or are you going even higher?
No, 3 goals will do. Really, really juicy bet on this one.
Yeah, so over 3 goals, New York City against Columbus Crew. One final match to talk about. Really interesting one, actually. Portland Timbers against Houston Dynamo. How do you see this one going then?
I really can't. I've not been able to pick this Western Conference at all in this round, to be fair. Although I did actually have a little punt on my website on unders in that second leg of the Seattle game. I wonder if this will be the same. Everyone looked at that Seattle game, didn't they? And they thought they're going to blow them away. And actually, to be fair, my heart was in my mouth a little bit towards the end of that game, even though it shouldn't have been. I just, obviously we know how the game's going to play out, don't we? Portland are going to go on the attack. Houston are going to look to counter them. Portland are fantastic at home. Houston are terrible away. So all things should equate to a comfortable Portland win. But this is the playoffs. It doesn't necessarily play out like that, does it? I can't see the Timbers not winning the game, though. I've got to be honest. But they picked up an awful lot of injuries in that first game, didn't they? And if the likes of sort of Chara isn't fit, Blanco didn't even play in that first leg because of injury. If those two were not fit, that would be big losses, wouldn't it? And I mean, really, really big losses. They're not struggling for chances, but they need their chances to fall to the right people at the minute, Portland, because of quite simply the likes of Mattox just is not good enough. That would kind of tease me into the unders if I was betting in the game, but I can't bring myself to bet on the unders at Providence Park. I just can't do it.
Well, for those of you who read my Eastbridge SB previews for MLS, and I'll be putting some on my website, and maybe we'll tip the overs here, but I've got to say it's not with an awful lot of confidence. It would be a fairly weak sort of selection, if you know what I mean. I just think as soon as 1 goal is scored here, it's going to go crazy. I'm sure of it. That's the thing. The question is, when is that first goal going to be scored? If there's a goal before half-time, I think it'll be the over will cover. As far as injuries are concerned, Chara, I think he's out for the whole playoffs now. He's done his broken metatarsal. There's loads of injury doubts for both teams. Suspension as well. The ironic this because we talked just last week in a podcast the Lens match against Chateau Roux, but Tyler Derrich, the Houston keeper, he's suspended over a non-footballing incident, arrested over alleged domestic assault for headbutting his wife or girlfriend. Sorry. So that's not a great time to be doing that, is it? When your team's in the middle of a massive playoff 2-legged tie. I think there'll be goals in it as long as a goal is scored in the first half. The longer it goes 0-0, though, it'll be just tight, cagey. No one will want to lose, and then there would be a risk of it ending 0-0 and it going to extra time. So I think probably the best advice here is to actually watch the game and wait for an in-running bet if there's a goal scored. I'm lumping on the overs because, as I say, someone has to react, and there's enough attacking potential on both sides for to score goals.
Yeah, that sounds like decent advice to me. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I don't. As I say, you may see me advise an over bet on certain websites on Sunday, but it's not a confident pick, and I'm not going to advise it on this podcast because we are proud record at the moment, Kev. We want to be confident with our selections. So let's hope we have a very good Sunday. Loads of selections there, and best of luck.
Absolutely, yeah. Plenty of bets, like you say. Hopefully, we'll keep our good record going, and more importantly, we'll get to see some really good football. Certainly in the Premier League and the MLS, it looks like a really, really good card. Not a bad one in France either, for once. So yeah, I'm expecting a really good day of football.
Yeah, I think it'd be a good day of football. We're going to be back. I don't know when we're going to be back. Probably next weekend, I would say. certainly for football. English League Two will be on. Maybe we might even talk a bit about international football. I know you're very good in that sort of department. Let's hope we get a good Sunday, and we'll catch you all very soon. So yeah, take care, everyone. Goodbye.
Cheerio.